For years, Kirk Franklin and David Mann were hailed as gospel's ultimate bromance. From choir risers to red carpet moments, their closeness wasn't just noticeable, it was iconic. Fans watched them laugh, pray, and share family life like a perfectly scripted duo. Publicly, they weren't just collaborators, they were a gospel family. Kirk brought David into his earliest projects, trusting him as more than a singer, as a spiritual confidant. The Manns and Franklins often showed up together at church events, giving off the vibe of an unbreakable bond. Two heavyweights in faith and fame standing side by side. So when whispers of tension at David Mann's home surfaced, everyone shrugged. Kirk's best friend. He'd say something if it was real, they murmured. But here's the kicker. Silence doesn't equal approval, and loyalty doesn't equal blind ignorance. Kirk was watching, closely tracking how David managed his household, his money, and the very people who relied on him most. The real bombshell? It didn't explode until Tamila and Tiffany stepped up, exposing years of private suffering. A soft whisper turned into a deafening courtroom revelation. When Tamila Mann took the stand, the room froze. A gospel powerhouse and devoted wife, always seen by David Mann's side, now crying. Speaking the truth she'd buried for far too long. She had carried that secret pain for far too long. And now the courtroom finally heard it. Tamila revealed that from day one, David Mann promised to love her children as his own. To be a father, a protector, a partner. But that vow shattered the moment the rings were exchanged. According to her, he didn't just run the household. He commandeered everything. Her finances, locked. Credit and debit cards, controlled. Every dollar she earned funneled through his hands. Shopping, not happening. Decisions, forget it. Even her music income was filtered through him. And she wasn't the only victim. Tiffany, her daughter, confirmed the pattern. David Mann cut off basic financial access, wielded silence and manipulation as power, and treated her less like a stepdaughter and more like a burden. The courtroom wasn't ready for the emotional punch of their testimony. These weren't strangers tossing accusations, they were family exposing the private reality behind the polished gospel stage lights. And just when the tension peaked, in walked Kirk Franklin, the man everyone assumed would shield David, but no. The energy shifted instantly. When David Mann entered that day, the confident comedic performer fans adored was gone. In his place was a man visibly shaken, shoulders stiff, eyes darting, hands clasped like someone praying he wouldn't completely unravel. All eyes snapped to the door, everyone holding their breath to see who would show loyalty. Then Kirk Franklin appeared, and just like that, the room's vibe flipped, gasps echoed. Cameras flashed like a paparazzi frenzy, and even David Mann's posture eased for a fleeting second, as if his ride-or-die buddy had finally arrived to back him up. After all, this was Kirk, his gospel brother, his longtime family. But hold on to your seats, what came next shattered expectations. Kirk Franklin didn't plop down beside him, didn't throw a reassuring nod or a brotherly smile. He strode past the defense, climbing the witness stand. Whispers filled the air, jaws dropped, and David Mann froze, face tightening as reality hit him like a brick. This wasn't support, this was the full-on courtroom bombshell. Adjusting the mic, Kirk Franklin paused, eyes scanning the room, locking briefly on David Mann, who stared back, disbelief and dread plastered across his face. This wasn't the reunion anyone imagined. Then Kirk began, voice slow, heavy, deliberate. I've known David Mann for years, watched him, worked with him, broken bread with him, and I've seen how he treats his family. Gasps erupted and David shifted nervously in his seat. In his seat, David Mann blinked rapidly, hands clutching the table like it was a lifeline. Kirk Franklin's words hit like a wrecking ball, the weight of years finally unleashed. He controls everything, Kirk said, voice steady but heavy. Money, decisions, movement, even the tiniest parts of their daily lives. I've seen this family exhausted, silenced. Tamila and Tiffany scared to speak up. The prosecutor leaned in. When you say control, what do you mean exactly, Mr. Franklin? Kirk didn't flinch. He manages every cent of Tamila's income, holds the cards, the accounts, sets all the rules. They couldn't even go shopping without his say-so. His voice cracked slightly, adding fire to the courtroom. Meanwhile, David was living it up: designer suits, luxury cars, lavish trips, all funded by her hard work. Reporters scribbled frantically. This wasn't rumor anymore. This was raw testimony. Kirk glanced down, then locked eyes with the judge. I stayed quiet because he was my friend. But silence has consequences. I won't stay silent anymore. And then came the knockout bombshell. Something no one had even imagined. After laying bare David Mann's financial stranglehold, Kirk Franklin leaned in, dropping the ultimate revelation. I know about the valley. The prosecutor blinked, stunned. The what? Kirk nodded. A private estate? Off the books? Unregistered? His secret kingdom built, flaunted, and worth nearly $65 million. Gasps rippled across the courtroom like thunder, gasps still echoing. Kirk Franklin painted the full picture of the hidden estate, sprawling, ultra-luxurious property tucked away in an exclusive high-security area. Imported stone, private airstrip, luxury cars, and a wardrobe the size of a church sanctuary. The kicker? David Mann never mentioned a word, neither to the public nor his own family. Tamila didn't know. Tiffany didn't know. And yet, every lavish detail was funded by her money. The courtroom felt the blow like a gut punch. All eyes locked on David Mann, stone-faced, avoiding every gaze. According to Kirk, he used Tamila's music success to build a secret kingdom, lavish, private, completely separate from the family he claimed to protect. While Tamila budgeted grocery bills, David threw private gatherings most people couldn't even imagine. Reporters scribbled furiously. The buzz electric. Judges don't pound gavels over whispers. But this wasn't whisper anymore. Evidence, testimony, witnesses. The carefully curated image of David Mann, the perfect gospel husband and father, began crumbling. And once the story went public, the gospel world erupted. Fans who once idolized the Mann family were questioning everything. Social media? Absolutely ablaze. Social media? Absolutely ablaze. TikTok threads tore apart every second from that courtroom. Instagram feeds overflowed with clips, captions, and hot takes. David Mann exposed, and Kirk Franklin boldly declared, Tamila deserved better. Fans were split, some heartbroken, some enraged, but many rallied behind Tamila and Tiffany, applauding their courage after years of silence. One viral tweet shouted, "It takes real strength to confront your abuser when the world thinks he's a saint." Comments under Tamila's old performances read, "We see you now. We hear you." Of course, not everyone cheered. A vocal minority questioned why Kirk waited so long. Why speak only in court? One gospel radio host challenged. Accusations of betrayal and broken brotherhood flew, but their noise was drowned out by a swelling movement, praising Kirk for finally telling the truth. No one else dared. Inside the industry, silence reigned. Artists who once called David Mann brother disappeared. Concerts paused. Brand deals froze, labels issued vague internal reviews. No one wanted to touch the fire, yet all eyes were glued, and the biggest question lingered: was this merely a scandal or the start of a much bigger storm? Behind the scenes, investigators quietly mobilized, and what they were uncovering promised to shake David Mann's world even further. The revelations shook David Mann's world to its core. Behind the flashing cameras and media frenzy, a far graver storm was quietly brewing, one he couldn't laugh or charm his way out of. Sources close to the case confirmed that after Kirk Franklin's testimony and the damning claims from Tamila and Tiffany, federal investigators quietly reopened an in-depth probe into David Mann's assets. And this wasn't just a look at bank statements, they were tracing every hidden property. Undeclared income, lavish purchases mismatched to reported earnings, offshore accounts tied to shell companies, even luxury vehicles under third-party names. This was no longer about emotional abuse, it was about fraud, coercive control, and possible financial exploitation. Investigators contacted former staff, business managers, and family friends. One insider revealed that David Mann maintained multiple phones, one for the public, one for personal use, and one that was meant to remain secret. Court records show he had been asked to submit updated financial disclosures, now being audited line by line. The $65 million hidden estate wasn't just a scandal, it was a lead. In the courtroom, David Mann's confidence evaporated. No smirks, no casual body language, just a hollow stare and a lawyer whispering that the heat had only just begun. Now, the law wasn't asking who he was, they were asking how he pulled it off. For how long and who else might have been involved? But even as investigators closed in and court dates piled up, one final twist in that courtroom left everyone gasping, and it came from the last place anyone expected. As the session drew to a close, one truth became crystal clear. David Mann was no longer shielded by his charm, his carefully crafted image, or even his inner circle. The walls were closing in, and the silence that had kept his secrets buried was finally shattered. Tamila found her voice. Tiffany found her courage. And Kirk Franklin, once his closest ally, chose truth over loyalty. This wasn't just a courtroom battle, it was a reckoning. The image of the flawless gospel husband crumbled piece by piece. The loving father, industry leader, and spiritual icon now overshadowed by tales of manipulation, control, and greed. The $65 million hidden estate, the frozen bank accounts, the years stolen in silence, all exposed. Then, just as the judge called for recess, a quiet voice pierced the tension. A woman rose, face partially hidden behind sunglasses, and handed a sealed envelope to the bailiff. "This is from someone who was part of it," she whispered. The courtroom spun. A new witness. A former assistant, a silent victim? We don't know yet. But one thing is undeniable. The truth about David Mann can no longer hide behind a gospel track. The silence is broken. The storm has begun. And the next wave? It might just be the one that finishes it all. The one that finishes it all.